Hi, welcome. I'm going to be talking about Orchard, which is Georgia's design system. So where we are now, what we are working on, and where we're going with it. I'm Rachel Hart. I'm the designer at Digital Services Georgia. So I tend to be the one sort of in charge of the design system for our agency websites. And I'm going to get into what I mean by that. But first, I'm going to talk about pizza. So let's just imagine you get a flyer in the mail for a pizza place. And you're like, awesome, love pizza, I'm hungry, let's do this. So you go to the website, pull it up, and it looks completely different from the flyer. You notice it has the same logo and you double check the URL and everything matches. So you're like, okay, I guess this is the right place, I'll continue. You click on the menu button, and of course it downloads a PDF. And again, it looks completely different from what you've seen. Not only that, but it also was pretty clearly designed a couple of decades ago. So you're pretty sure none of this is actually up to date. You just go back to the website, whatever, click on the order button, and it takes you again to something that looks completely different from everything else. Again, there's the same logo, but is that really enough to trust this website with your personal address and your credit card information? So you're really not sure if you can trust it. But let's say you still really want this pizza, you're hungry, you're frustrated, you don't know what to trust. So you have a few options on how to continue. You could call. Of course, there is a chance of background noise messing up your order, and you also have to talk to someone on the phone. You could visit, but you're already cozy in your house. You weren't really planning on going out. Do you want to go into the actual location and have to place your order there and then wait around for your pizza? Or you could use your trusty delivery app. You've used it before, and you know that there are going to be extra fees on top of it, but at least you're going to get your pizza, right? So none of these options are great. And now just a reminder, we work for the government, we're not selling pizzas. And so with that, we are handling services that people need to interact with. I'm not saying that visual consistency is the only important piece of the puzzle. Of course, we care about having clear content and excellent UX. All of these go into making a good experience for someone. But why would we risk losing someone's trust and having them call or visit the office or turn somewhere else to help them navigate these services and these processes that we are here to be making easy for them, just because the visual clues don't add up from one place to the next? So what can we do with this? Well, we have GovHub, which I know probably most of you in the audience here are pretty familiar with. I know that a lot of you have your primary agency website within GovHub. So this is our Drupal-based CMS, the content management system. This is where you actually take care of everything that goes onto your website. And along with GovHub, we have Orchard, which you might be a little less familiar with. This is the design system that gives everything the look and feel that it has. I'm going to go more into what I mean by a design system throughout this talk, but just at a really high level, yeah, it determines the looks. And so throughout here, I'm going to talk about GovHub and Orchard together, GovHub and Orchard separate, so starting to pull them away from each other and turning Orchard into its own thing, and what our vision is for Orchard going into the next year or so. So from the beginning, Orchard and GovHub have really come up together. So back in 2018, 2019, we identified these 24 different content types and 18 micro content types. And these are how the content on the websites are going to be structured and how they come together. And so at the time, we were being very careful to make sure that every one of them has their own design, so that a bio page looks a particular way, and you can also have a bio teaser, and that's going to look a particular way. And so we were very focused on having the design matched to our content model. And this is because what is directly under our control within the digital services team are these GovHub websites. We can manage the design for the different components that go into these websites. So this is really important when we think of the before and after. So before we moved into GovHub, we did have some design consistency, but it was really probably a little too too flexible from one website to the next. I don't know, there wasn't really a lot to it, and it was just a very scattered experience. And we need to remember that people see the government as a monolith. They don't think of it as, okay, I'm going to the Department of Driver Services for this, and then I'm going to go over here to the Department of Revenue for something else. They see it all as one big government. And so we want to get them the information in a way that lets them know that it's all connected, because it is. And so with the update to GovHub, we also implemented Orchard. And that lets someone know that whether they are on georgia.gov or on dds.georgia.gov, or if they're on GMA's website or on DFACS, all of these are clearly part of the same system. You know, they each have their own sort of branding and they have different color palettes, but there's enough tying them together that someone can confidently go from one to the next and know that they're in the right place. And so that was where we started. And outside of our direct control are the non-GovHub websites and applications. And so I do want to shift our thinking here. It's not that it's out of our control, but it's really that this is where Orchard as a design system can make the most impact. So this is where we get to thinking of Orchard beyond just GovHub, and thinking of it not as a way to just unify GovHub websites, but to unify all state digital properties. We do have a public website. You can go to it right now at orchard.georgia.gov and check it out. This is a very first version of the Orchard design system as a website, but it does have some of the basics that you really need. So we have our branding available. You can download the Pillars logo and get all the guidance around how to use it. We have color palettes, so you can find hex codes and see, you know, what color text should be paired with what color background. And then we have the pattern library. So this is really what people tend to think of as being the design system, is how do these different components look? How do they come together? So we can show this is what a text field looks like, this is what a button looks like, and provide that on the page. And like I said, this is very much in the infant stages right now. We have these examples available on the website and organized, and we have some of the really basic guidance around it, but there's not an easy way for a developer to grab this and apply it to their own website. It would take a little digging to make that happen. Now we have started making our first steps towards expanding Orchard. So we do have the distributed hat and footer. So the hat being that banner across the top of all GovHub websites, the footer being what goes at the bottom. And this is available and ready to include script for any non-GovHub websites. So we have this already on a couple, on analytics.georgia.gov and schoolgrades.georgia.gov. And it's not just copying the styles over, but it's also copying that information. So when they first add it to their website, it has this set of information, but if we need to update a link in the future, so we have those links in the footer that go to various pages on georgia.gov, and let's say we move where the chat page is, we update that in the distributed footer, and that will update anywhere that this footer is being used. So it's keeping that information all tightly connected. And then we also have started working on a couple of projects that are pretty hands-on of figuring out how to apply Orchard into these non-GovHub sites. So this is an example that another team within the Georgia Technology Authority was working on. And I partnered with them recently. It was also developed in partnership with Lullabot. And we worked on getting it closer to the Orchard design. So you can see that from looking at it. If you're familiar with what Georgia websites look like, you can see the header and the footer. Some of the typography is pretty close, the buttons, the fields, it's all, you know, relatively similar. You can see a few different pages here. And this is sort of a double-edged sword here. So on the one side, it was easier from the perspective of determining the design. At any point, if we questioned what should this field look like, then we could point to the Orchard design system and say, oh, this is what fields look like. Okay, so let's make it look like that. And it makes those decisions a lot quicker and easier, and gives us the single source of truth that we can say, this is what it should be. So let's work towards that. On the other hand, because we don't have easy implementation right now, it did make certain things more difficult. The developer who was working on this project was building it from an existing application. And so any changes that we were making to that to make it closer to the Orchard design system was additional work for her. And so this was definitely a learning experience for us. We got to see some of the strengths and pitfalls of where Orchard is in its current state. And it's time to reassess. And this is something that we've been planning sort of from the beginning. Like we always knew that we wanted to take Orchard beyond just GovHub and turn it into its own thing. But now it's time to really get into that. So Orchard is leaving the nest. And we're developing it into a product of its own. So this comes in a few steps. First off, we are actually updating the GovHub design. It's not going to be a total overhaul. It's just kind of freshening things up, making sure that we're staying modern, taking care of any pain points that currently exist with the design. So this is a focus project that we're working on right now. We just recently kicked it off. We're exploring different design ideas. And so this is, I'm really excited to see where we go with this. We are also gathering the technical requirements from teams who might use Orchard outside of GovHub. So we're talking with developers and designers who are working on something other than a GovHub website to see, what do you need from a design system? And this can be people who are currently using some version of Orchard, or maybe they're using a different design system, or maybe they've never heard of design systems. All of these different levels of experience and familiarity, we want to talk to these people. And so that's a project that we are working on right now to get a better understanding of how can we make this design system accessible and useful for people. We're also building out guidance around all of it. So this is one piece of a design system that can be sometimes forgotten. And honestly, we haven't highly prioritized it yet. We have some guidance out there, you know, like this is when you might use this style of button versus this style. And like I was saying with the colors, like this color of text should go on this color background. So we have starting points, but there's a lot of room to really build this out and make sure that whoever is using the design system, whether it's a designer, a developer, a content creator, project manager, any of these people can get what they need out of it. And so we're really trying to focus in on making sure that all of that is easily accessible to people. And all of this is with the goal in mind to provide Orchard in an easy to implement format. So we don't want to have projects that take extra effort to get the design closer to Orchard. We want things, we want Orchard to make things easier for you. And if it's easier, that's also going to save you time and money. That's really a lot of the goal of this design system, beyond just bringing it all into a single look and feel, is taking care of these frequently repeated problems and helping you and letting you build things faster and easier and with less maintenance. So to give you an idea of what we're thinking about, this is the US web design system. And it's been live for a while now, since 2015, and used on several federal websites. You can check it out right now at designsystem.digital.gov. And I'll just walk you through some of the things that are involved here. So they have design principles. This is really just like, where should your head be? And what should you care about when creating a website with this design system? They have all of the components. And you can see in the left column there, it's really well broken down into all of the little pieces that might go onto a page. And along with these components, they show what it looks like. They explain how you might use it. They include the code for it. So all of this stuff for each of these items that goes into a page. And then speaking of that, they also have these templates. So it's a suggestion of how you might put together a page based on the components. And if an agency is working on their website and they don't have any really unique needs, they can just straight copy this template and put a page together and don't have to think about it again. So just things to provide some ideas and some suggestions on, like, we've tested this, we know this is good, here's how you can do it. This is what we recommend. And then they also have instructions on how to use it. And this is one piece that I definitely think that we need to get into. They have instructions for developers and instructions for designers on how you can get all of the assets that you need and how you can implement this design system on your own website. And so I just want to close with this quote from Josh Clark. He's the founder at a design studio, Big Medium. And he says, the design system carries the burden of the boring so that designers and developers don't have to. And this is really what I was getting at of, like, we want this design system to be helpful for you. We want things to be easy. We don't want you to have to think about what a button looks like, or what a field looks like, or what the header looks like. We want to be able to provide all of this for you so that you can focus on the really unique challenges for your own website. So do you have some sort of unique user flow that people have to go through, or the form is set up in a particular way? Again, just making things easier for you, letting you focus on what you need to. So just a few key takeaways that I want to leave you with. Remember, consistency builds trust. We don't want to be like the pizza example from the beginning. We want to make sure that in every step through the process, someone knows that they're in the right place and they want to continue and they understand what's happening. Again, remember, Orchard is available now, orchard.georgia.gov. This is the first draft, but if you need to get some colors or the pillars logo or any of these really basic things, then absolutely go to that website and take whatever you need. And again, draft 2 is currently in progress. We will be in touch if we know of anyone within your agency who is working on non-GovHub websites. We want to talk to you and figure out what you need from a design system. But if you are that person, or if you know that person, definitely feel free to reach out to us through a support request. You can get there from our website at digitalservices.georgia.gov. And we would love to talk to you and find out what we can do with Orchard to make it as useful as possible for you. And thank you so much. I'm excited to take your questions.